Good morning, everyone. Hope everyone's having a good Friday so far. Thank you for joining us for the next 45 minutes or so or less, talking about a very hot topic right now, onboarding and retention, and the real practical tools available to you right now so you can start making dramatic improvements with those initiatives. Hello, my name is Dan Marks. I am your moderator for this event. I am the CEO and founder of Reshift, a digital marketing strategy consulting firm based out of Milwaukee, Wisconsin. A few housekeeping items. If you have questions, there is a Q&A button and a chat button on the bottom of your screens. Feel free to use whichever you want to during the portion of this presentation. You can use chat or Q&A, and we will make sure that we will get to as many of those questions at the end during the Q&A process. If we don't get to them, we will make sure that we can email everybody the answers afterwards. Right now, I'd like to introduce you to our speaker, Tatiana St. Germain, who is a leadership coach, talent advisor, founder and CEO of Great People Management, a talent management consulting firm serving clients nationwide. Tatiana, take it over.
Thank you, Dan, so much for the warm introduction and for moderating the event. A few of my connections of the past couple of weeks asked me, this webinar, Tatiana, why now? Why this topic? It's not like there's lack of information on this topic out there. And that is true. I was very excited to attend some in-person lunch and learns, some networking events, went through numerous webinars, as I'm sure you have, articles. And yes, there's a lot of great information out there. But I feel like these conversations are missing one important piece, one important element, which is the human element and how to understand what people really care about. There's lack of practical solutions being discussed right now about how to find out what motivates people, how to have better, deeper conversations with them that not only produce results, but produce lasting results. And the thing is, my company has been offering this solution to my clients for the past 17 years. So I really felt like I would be doing a disservice to you guys, to my LinkedIn network and professional network, if I did not share it with you. Based on the poll that was offered during the registration, and thank you for those who participated, the number one challenge right now is retention. The close second came, not surprising, finding people, third onboarding, and training in fourth place. Good news is this assessment solution I will share with you will help you on all four of those fronts with all four of those challenges and much more. First, I want to take you back to last April. Do you remember where you were? How you and your colleagues were feeling? How long did you think the shutdowns are going to last? For myself personally, we had a spring break cruise scheduled and we were very confident that we would get on that boat by Christmas for sure, which is when it was rescheduled. It never happened. Around that same time, April, a president of a small biotech company was on a call with her executive team to brainstorm what to do, given that it's, well, April, and it's a few weeks into the shutdown, and we needed to get the life-saving diagnostic products to our patients. And about 30 minutes into the Zoom call, the president threw her hands up in the air and yelled, "I can't do this anymore," and disconnected from the call, leaving a very shaken and perplexed leadership team to continue with the strategy call and make some decisions. This was just the first of many examples of leaders falling apart that I've observed over the past 18 months. Not that we haven't seen leaders fall apart before, but not so spectacularly, so publicly, and so completely. Even being a connoisseur of human behavior in the workplace, I was shocked. I was less surprised by how many people actually stepped up and made those decisions and created innovation and exuded confidence and courage and support that, frankly, probably saved their companies as long as they were allowed to implement their ideas. Where did all this behavior come from? So some of my colleagues argued that it's extreme circumstances that made people. I argue that extreme circumstances revealed what people were made of. Extreme circumstances revealed what people were made of. It was always there, and most companies just didn't know it. This is because people are like icebergs. Only 10% of who the person truly is can be observed through day-to-day interactions. Certainly interviews, they're very short, and even working side by side for many years. Yes, that colleague that you've been sitting next to, in a cubicle next to, you really don't know them. Until the sky starts to fall down and everything we know is taken away, do people show their true colors. The 90% of the total person that's hidden below the waterline that we don't see. And that's not just bad stuff, it's also good stuff, their potential. And remember, it's not the tip of the iceberg that sank the Titanic. These companies could have known. They could have had the information about their people. They could have invested in their people and made sure that they had the right ones in all positions, especially in leadership positions. For many years, I've been hearing this objection, and you could probably identify with it. What if we invest in people and they leave? It's especially true with college graduates who get their first job with your company, let's say, and you may be fearful that after a year or two, they go on to their next adventure, taking all the knowledge and training and development you gave them with them, and then you have to start over. Well, so what if we invest in people and they leave? My question to you, and it's a bigger question, what if you don't invest in them and they stay? Remember the president who couldn't take it anymore? She's still with the company, still working hard to drive it into the ground and run off great people. When you don't invest in people and understanding what they really care about, your good ones will leave and bad ones will stay. So what do people care about? How are we going to keep them? This is a collection. I wanted to just have one slide at least to acknowledge all those great ideas that came across our desks and computer screens over the last couple of years, and especially the last 6 months, that this topic heated up, the talent retention ideas. These are the ideas that organizations have been trying to, or have been implementing to impact retention. And at first, these are all great, innovative strategies. And obviously, this is a pretty short list. There's more. And I like those ideas. Who doesn't want to make more money and bring their pet to work? Unfortunately, these strategies don't have a sticking power and may in fact start creating bad behaviors. This is my biggest concern. They may start to create bad behaviors and expectations in the workplace because they reinforce a transactional relationship between a company and employee. They reinforce a transactional relationship between a company and employee, and you can only go so far with compensation and benefits. Many companies can't even afford all this. The grim reality is that these strategies don't seem to work as well as we would hope. And I'm just basing this on the numbers from McKinsey research here. It's November 2021, and since April, 19 million workers quit and counting. Turnover was predicted nationwide to be around 52%, and it's turning out to be a low estimate. It's likely going to be more than predicted. Every single day, with no exaggeration, I hear stories about awful interviews. People driving while interviewing, have their baby in their lap while interviewing, or going through a Starbucks drive-through, and they put the hiring manager on hold. I'm just flabbergasted. Are we? What's going on? Are we just scraping the bottom of the barrel, or did people completely lose their sense of professionalism in just 12 months? So our great tactical systems strategies for retention may not work as well as we hope, not for long term. With people leaving and the need to replace them and so few people applying, we often end up settling. You're here today because you really know that without people, you have no business. I've been saying this for years. People are the foundation of your business. And most companies right now are quite literally realizing they cannot keep doors open without people because people are either leaving or they can't find replacements, even if you have great products and services. But while you may be settling on less than ideal hires, You also have to balance you have to have some balance in your approach. The wrong people will not only sink your ship faster, your brand and reputation can also suffer irreparable damage. My clients are passionate about selecting the right people, gathering in-depth information to conduct winning interviews, and engage their new hires very quickly. But with so few people even applying, many organizations are finding that the funnel just dried up. Whereas before we could go through the resume screen and assessment selection interviews and dwindle that pool of qualified applicants down to the right one. Now we don't have any people and we end up settling. And I still cringe that selection and vetting step is often skipped these days, and your current workforce is sacrificed on the altar of just filling the positions. Your current workforce is sacrificed on the altar of just filling your positions. What I mean by that is the employees that choose to stay with you will be impacted the most by the wrong hires. In fact, I've observed that loyal employees are willing to give more discretionary effort and maybe even do the work of two people for, during tough times, of course, rather than having to deal with a new hire who is only there to collect the bonus. With that said, I'm a realist, and if you're engaged in any of these less than ideal practices to get people on board, to get warm bodies on board, I'm not judging you. In fact, I am here to help you, because even a new hire who came on board for the wrong reasons can be turned into a great employee. All you really need is information. My former boss and mentor always said you can't manage what you can't measure. And without information, companies cannot fix what they don't understand. People are notoriously unpredictable and complicated. So what do they want? What do people care about? We're going back to McKinsey and Company research, and I have a full article with that research posted on my LinkedIn page, and I can provide a copy of that to you if you'd like. According to the research, they find that what people really care is about human connections. It's not necessarily the touchy-feely stuff, but meaningful conversations, sense of belonging, connection, and fulfillment. If you think about it, it makes perfect sense. There's been so much uncertainty and disconnect in the human world, all over the world, that this uncertainty is now driving the daily decisions, including the choice of career, company to work for. And if you create connections with people and create the sense of belonging and certainty, and primarily certainty, they will be more likely to stay with you. I'm not going to go through all the things that we could ponder, but the main idea here is that focusing on relationships is what is going to be a game changer for your organization. In fact, I would bet that the reason you're still here as a company, still succeeding and thriving, is because you made an effort to engage with your employees on some level during the toughest times. So build on that success. Don't lose the momentum. Your current and potential employees are watching. It's been said that onboarding is not about training, but about building relationships. So again, that word relationships lead to team cohesiveness and better retention. Now, I don't want you to go out and start quoting Tatiana. She told us we're not doing training anymore because onboarding is about relationships. There's place for training, but the focus needs to be on relationships. One of my coaching clients, credit union in Texas, shared with me feedback that they got from their recent VP level hire. The VP said that in his entire career, he's never experienced such positive, efficient, and transformational onboarding process as he did with this credit union. And it was only after 2 weeks. After 2 weeks, he felt like he was part of the team for 2 years in a good way. And what contributed to that positive experience is the information that allowed them to get to know each other better. He got to know people that he worked with, and they got to know him. And I will share with you the tool that they use religiously during their onboarding process that allowed them to reduce onboarding basically from 6 or more months to 2 weeks. That is pretty dramatic. Think of what you could do with this much more time and productivity. Whether you have a hybrid, remote, or back in office workforce, think of the initiatives you have implemented with your people to try to retain them. It is scary. that some of your best people may be leaving. So a key point to remember about retention is that it's not just about retaining talent for retention's sake. It's about retaining great people, especially. And at Great People Management, we're all about great people. While you worry about the loudest and most capricious employees, those who work hard and don't usually get called to the principal's office are the ones who might quietly slip away. When was the last time you engaged in a meaningful conversation with your top performers? Not to say necessarily thank you, which is of course highly appreciated, but to really understand their state of mind, their plans, their worries, their aspirations. And I suspect what may be holding you back from those conversations is the missing information that provides that common language to conduct these conversations effectively. And I have the solution for that. To sum it up, do you know your people better than they know themselves? Or do you expect a new benefit perk is going to keep them from going to a competitor? Know your people better than they know themselves. How do we get to know people? They're so different. There's so many of them. They're so complicated. And I promised you the solution of this information piece of the puzzle. Employee assessments is the solution. They provide a lot of good information about people. You may or may not have a lot of experience with assessments in the workplace. I've spent 17 years in the business and used dozens of different ones and consider myself an assessment expert. So feel free to ask away all kinds of questions. But without going into too much technical detail, I do want to share with you about two most common assessment types. First, we have personality tests. You probably heard about those. Personality tests, by the way, are not validated for use in pre-employment, and they do not comply with US Department of Labor guidelines for use in hiring. But they can be used very effectively in post-hire applications, such as team development and communication. They're usually quick, easy, and inexpensive, and this is why a lot of managers are drawn to them. There's over 4,000 just disc-based assessment tools for quadrant personality types. And then, of course, you have Myers-Briggs, Predictive Index, Culture Index, which is also a disc-based tool, Strength Finders, Big Five, and so many more. And what I'm going to say, that the limitation of the personality testing is the number of possible score combinations. They range from 4 possible outcomes, like putting a group of people into 4 buckets, to 16 possible outcomes to 32 possible combinations. While putting in people in buckets, I feel is extremely useful, certainly. But because it helps us harness some of that uncertainty associated with people. But whether it's 4 buckets or 32 buckets, it doesn't give me enough information to make a job fit prediction, make a hiring decision, to know the leadership style of the person and really know what motivates them. People are much more complex than that. Plus, when you're using these assessments in hiring, despite Department of Labor's recommendation, the information is going to contain too many socially desirable answers. And that's almost completely useless in interviewing and onboarding. So please remember that personality tests are transparent, which means assessment takers under pressure of going in for a new job. I'll repeat this. Personality tests are transparent, meaning that assessment takers under pressure of going in for a new job will always tell you what they think you want to hear. If you're applying for a sales job, for example, think of yourself. How would you answer a question related to interacting with people and building relationships? Oh my gosh, I'm so outgoing. I never met a stranger. And the opposite could be true. And you may not find that out until months down the road. Okay, so please don't use personality tests for hiring, only for development and team communication. And I've used them very effectively in those applications, as well as mergers and acquisitions for merging culture conversations as well. The other type of assessment is a total person evaluation normative assessment. There are about a dozen of those on the market, and they're much more sophisticated and in-depth than personality tests. The reason they're valid for hiring is because they measure a total person. cognitive, behavioral, motivations. And they plot their scores in a continuum. In this case, I have a bell curve and a scale from 1 to 10. They plot them on the continuum to show how this employee relates to the rest of the working population. This is very useful because there's no good or bad score. After all, you cannot fail who you are. But you can see if you are like people in one area and discuss the implications of that, and you can see where you're very unlike people in another area, maybe you're very unique and you stand alone, or maybe stand alone together with 2.5% of the working population. We can discuss the implications associated with that. So you can take it so many levels deeper in your discussions and in your decisions too. These assessments allow us to determine the exact success benchmark for every position, match people to jobs, match people to teams, to each other, to their manager, and etc. All of this is to ensure that we have a precise measurement of each individual and their match to their environment. We measure each individual and match them to their environment and discuss the implications. Where these assessments differ from each other is ease of use. Do they require interpretation or certification, or is it easy to use? How robust the reports are, how many reports are available. Scalability, can it be used by small companies and big companies alike? And of course, the costs. So there is some variation in different types. A tool I'm highlighting today in today's conversation is PXT Select. It was developed by Profiles International and perfected by Wiley and Sons when they acquired Profiles in 2013. Wiley is, of course, the oldest publishing company with a large branch of their business dedicated to workforce talent development. Some of their other tools you may be familiar with or heard of is Checkpoint 360, Step 1 Survey, which is a work ethic assessment. It's creating a little bit of a buzz right now. Everything Disc, I'm sure you've heard of them, and 5 Behaviors of the Cohesive Team. That is also a Wiley tool. PXT is a normative assessment that is used throughout employees' life cycle, from hiring to onboarding to development, career pathing, succession planning, and ultimately it leads to increased productivity and retention. What does it measure and what can you expect for output? We have 20 measurements, 5 cognitive measurements, speed and style of learning, measure of vocabulary, behavioral reasoning, verbal reasoning, and abstract thinking, numerical calculation ability, problem solving, and reasoning. 9 behavioral traits. PACE measures rate of task completion. Do you have the sense of urgency and you love to multitask? Or are you patient and methodical and finish where you start? Assertiveness. Are you putting your foot down and asserting yourself, exhibiting assertive behavior, take control of people and situations? Or are you more diplomatic? Sociability ranges from introverted to extroverted and relationship-driven folks. Conformity with rules, policies, and procedures. Do you like them, or are you cautious about the rules, policies, and procedures, and you prefer to set your own direction? Outlook on people and life and outcomes. Do you trust people, or are you skeptical? Decisiveness deals with how quickly we make decisions and how much time we like to take to make a decision. Accommodation. Are you comfortable with having tough conversations and saying no and making unpopular decisions? Or are you highly focused on team harmony and prefer to sacrifice your opinion for the sake of maintaining that harmony? Independence measures autonomy on one end versus teamwork and collaboration on the other end. And judgment ranges from intuitive thinking and decision making to very factual black and white kind of thinking. 6 motivational interests. I'm not going to go into detail on those, but I just wanted to note this is the stuff that gets you out of bed in the morning. This is the stuff that gets you excited about not just work, but about life. And if we could give you and your employees an outlet for those innate interests at work, well, it's not going to feel like work. They're going to be much more engaged and much more excited to come to work every day. So remember the iceberg. PXT uncovers what is under the waterline, what we don't see, the 90% of the total person. And you may or may not administer it prior to the interviewing conversation, but definitely use it with your existing folks because it's never too late to get to know your people. Remember when I said how personality tests give you a finite number of possible combinations? And it's 4, 16, or 32. And it's not really enough to capture the uniqueness of the person in front of you. Well, PXT Select has 20 measurements, as I mentioned, on a scale from 1 to 10, making the number of possible combinations over 10 trillion, I guess is the number. This is as close as we can get to measuring someone's professional DNA, their occupational fingerprint. So we're truly measuring the uniqueness of the individual and how this individual relates to the other people, which is what is truly useful. Because we all come to work, and even when we don't come to work and work remotely, we still don't work in isolation. We work with people, with colleagues and clients. So we have to come together to produce results, and we really need to know how we relate to each other. Imagine you had a user guide on everyone on your team. This was your team. How much better, quicker, and more precise your decisions would be. What's exciting about PXT is that you get 13 user guides included in the cost of each assessment. Remember I said simple and cost-effective solution. So let's apply this solution to the current reality. I'm actually going to walk you through a real scenario. Let's say under normal circumstances, I would have these 5 applicants for my sales representative position. But because it's November 2021, I only maybe have 2, or maybe I just have 1. And I'm under pressure to hire this person. And let's say Camilla here is a lovely individual who was recommended by an employee. And let's say she took the interview seriously and didn't actually put me on hold to order her frappuccino. And she showed up first day of work and actually brushed her hair. I mean, I don't know what to expect anymore. So based on the recommendation, based on her past experience, semi-decent interview, and lack of other candidates, okay, I'm taking her on. Congratulations, I have a warm body in the sales representative seat. I would have liked the luxury of being selective. I would have liked to use PXT review report, but let's say I didn't. So what now? Good news is I can still administer PXT during onboarding. And the reports I'm going to generate, there's 13 different ones, but I'm going to generate select for you. I will show you which ones. First, I want to see how well she actually matches the sales job. And I'm not thrilled, 67%. I mean, not awful, but not great. There's definitely areas of opportunities and coaching. What I need at this point to get my mind and hands around as a boss of Camilla is who she is, what she cares about, and if I ask, she may just give me platitudes, how to make her a better sales rep. And that at this point, it's my responsibility. How to keep her, how to best motivate her and ensure she fits with me and the team. So first, I'm going to generate a coaching report. There is a coaching report. These are the snapshots of a comprehensive coaching report that tell me she's going to be open to guidance during sales process. We'll generally do what she's told. I should not expect a lot of innovative thought out of her. And this is going to be my responsibility to lay down the tracks for her train to run on. I will need to be available and supportive, offer immediate feedback and check in with her frequently. And one way to engage with her will be to include her in our occasional community outreach work. She's highly motivated by helping those in need. See that people service in there. I may need to ask her what she might already be doing something in this area. And perhaps she can help us with these programs. Maybe she can be even in charge of these initiatives for the organization. And she's going to love this. So I just found out what she cares deeply about, took interest, and put her in the position where she feels valued for her contributions. Okay, good start. Next, I want to make sure Camilla can see herself with our organization long-term. Where else could she go? Frankly, she's not made for sales, even though she can do it. People are like rubber bands, they can stretch, but for how long and how far? It's not a rhetorical question. I can answer that. Not long and not very far, especially as the outside pressures continue to create uncertainty and stress. And people under those conditions are always less likely to even try to be a better version of themselves. This is why when COVID hit, all those rubber bands were snapping and icebergs were flipping, and we were seeing everybody's, 90% of who they really are, their true colors, all the stuff they've been hiding. So based on this selection of jobs, looks like she may be a much better match for an office manager position. That might be a good one. And she's certainly more organized than me. This report will guide me through the career path conversation with her. And I will plan to do this within the first week. An important part of the onboarding process is to create team synergy as quickly as possible. And this is what my client, credit union I mentioned earlier, does during their onboarding. All the people on my team took PXT, including me. So now I can just plug in Camilla's scores and we can run the new team reports for each team member. We will then schedule a team meeting about 90 minutes to 2 hours, maybe over lunch, to talk about our differences and similarities. By investing that amount of time and effort into welcoming a new person and helping them integrate into the team, you're already building loyalty, because this is a huge investment on everybody's part. And that means people care. Remember the sense of connectedness. So we talk about our differences, similarities, how it may impact our communication, and how we can leverage each other's strengths, and maybe laugh about some of our quirks. That's always fun. There's nothing better than being a part of a complementary team where everybody knows your strengths and talents and they come to you for that. But they also know some of your quirks and challenges, and they don't take those personally. It really is an amazing experience. And what is even more amazing is that you can create this experience within the first week after hire. So we get that uncertainty out of the way with the team synergy within the first week on the job. Camilla feels like she knows everyone, knows what to expect from them. They know what to expect from her. She feels valued. There's a lot of good language, as you can see here, feels appreciated. And even if she's not the best salesperson, she knows she's contributing in a big way, and she sees the future with us and has a sense of belonging. One more report I use during onboarding is manager employee report. It impacts retention. And I also use it with clients who maybe forgot to use this report, and they now need to reconnect with their people, their existing people. Essentially, this report is compatibility between boss and direct report. So I run the report between myself and Camilla. And now I have the language that I can use during the next one-on-one meeting. In this case, I will have this language to use during onboarding. And it's not going to be your typical stay interview when you use it with existing employees, where people often tell you just how much money they want or what position they want. This is a real in-depth conversation about how you're similar and different and how to best work together. With Camilla, this is my opportunity to be vulnerable and to let her know that I can be difficult sometimes, and why, and where we're going to be able to help each other and where we're going to butt heads on occasion. In this case, what I appreciate about her is, the most is her level of patience. She actually finishes what she starts while I'm chasing shiny objects. She has an appreciation for the process, and with my full permission may restrain me from implementing a wild new idea because the one we implemented last week is still working. She should also know that my non-compromising attitude in managing people has nothing to do with her personally. She's just more accommodating and harmonious, and I may not care so much about the frou-frou stuff like that. So to recap, what makes PXT unique among normative assessments? It does not require interpretation, although I'm always available to provide color commentary and advise you in your decision making. Reliability and validity is the highest in the industry, It's administered online, and Wiley, they care about candidate experience very much. It complies with Department of Labor standards and pre and post hire applications. It's extremely cost effective. In fact, it starts to pay you back. It starts to pay you dividends when you reduce hiring costs, improve retention, dramatically improve productivity. Think about a sales job, for example, and the difference between an average and top sales guy, let's say, is $100,000. And you just implemented a tool that can help you hire top performers every time, and also the tool that can help you coach salespeople from average to top performance. What if you move 10 sales rep from average to top within the first 6 months times 100,000? That's pretty dramatic. And how much does it cost you to replace an employee? What if you stopped a leak, talent leak, for the next 6 months? What would it do to your bottom line? Even though I use many assessment tools with my clients, when I use PXT, I feel like I have a superpower. I can kind of see right through people, and it never failed me in all the years I used it. And I've probably seen, I don't know, hundreds of thousands of these assessments, but it helps you harness that unpredictable element of your business and make your people predictably great. Helps you know your people better than they know themselves, makes onboarding more meaningful, helps you start coaching and development today with good language, career pathing, succession planning, and of course, make better decisions with better information every time and become an employer of choice. When you know your people and you become an employer of choice, this is when you start attracting people instead of losing people. This is when you can start retaining people long-term instead of bribing and manipulating them to stay short-term. Develop people instead of manage performance, and start creating something new instead of constantly fixing people problems. PXT can be your superpower too. And this is the main reason I wanted you to know that this tool is out there, especially how you can use it in the context of onboarding and retention, and even getting the right people on board too. And Dan, I believe we're at our questions.
Yes, we are. So we actually do have a question that came in from Luann, and it's pretty unique for her business. She asks, our business is primarily field-based with male leaders. Do you find that female leaders favor your approach and recommendations over their male counterparts? Please don't misunderstand that our managers are insensitive. I just question whether they would engage the same with the suggestions compared to more sensitive population of managers. Great question.
That is a fantastic question. Thank you for that. Actually, even most science-driven, most factual people, like engineers, I work with engineering firms, and they're a male-dominated industry. They love PXT, not because it helps build relationships, but because it provides them with science on the person. It breaks the person into numbers, essentially. And so I love your question, because it attracts both female leaders, and they use it in a different way, perhaps, but also male leaders and very, what's the word I'm looking for? Factual kind of individuals.
Fantastic. So does anyone else have any other questions? I know there's a lot that's coming at you. Great information. Let me see what else we got popping in here. So, all right.
Well, while we're waiting for a couple of questions to roll in, I know that a lot of you on the poll at the registration, thank you for those who participated in the poll about your greatest challenge. You did say that finding people is number one priority, number one challenge. And we were focusing primarily on onboarding and retention today. But I just wanted to give you a quick tip. And you may or may not be doing this already with your company, but it's very important to have a career page on your website that is easily accessible, and you don't have to go look for it. And when you click on it, your core values are visible. Maybe you have some stories from employees, and then of course the jobs. Because what I'm finding about our current workforce, the people that are actually looking, if let's say I want to work for your company, specifically your company, I Google you, I find your website, and I go on your website and I can't find a career page. What do you want me to do? Go to Indeed? That may be an option, but given what we know about current job seekers in the current circumstances, it may be a little bit too much work for them. But I thought that was a good tip one of my colleagues shared with me. And I do find that a lot of companies are missing that piece. It's easy fix. Make sure you have careers page on your website to attract talent and build reputation.
So we have another question from Barry, and he asks, is there a sample test to see results, or is it too nuance based on position and or requiring multiple individuals within the same system to be truly effective?
Okay, you have to read it again to me.
Sure.
Sample test, meaning sample benchmark, right? Read that again to me.
Yeah, kind of like from what I'm understanding Barry to say is there kind of a mini version or a sample test that'll actually show results, almost maybe like a prerequisite versus, or to make it more effective, should you go all in?
Yeah, thank you, Barry, for the question. We can, if I'm understanding the question correctly, is how are we matching people to jobs and how that a benchmark is created, success benchmark is created. We can tap into the library of benchmarks that's available through Wiley for different positions and occupational titles. And those studies are done based on they use top performers who take the assessment, and the aggregate of their scores creates a benchmark and outline what the ideal candidate, say in a sales job, would look like. And then when I work with specific organizations, they may choose to create custom benchmarks with your talent pool. So with your multiple individuals, if you have 3 top salespeople and you want to hire more people like them, or start coaching your existing sales force to be like those 3 people, yes, they take the assessment, creates the aggregate, the benchmark of success. We match other people to this benchmark and generate all those reports.
Okay, so he elaborated a little bit more, basically saying, is there a way for a curious person to take one, say on themselves, to see what it's actually like? Probably before.
Oh, yes, absolutely. I took it too far. Yes, absolutely. You can, it's not tied into jobs. We measure people first, and then we measure jobs separately. And depending on the application of the assessment, we may match the 2 together to generate different job matching, coaching reports, etc. But there is also reports that just measure the individual and just deliver information like leadership information on that individual. Absolutely. Barry, let's talk afterward, and I can get you set up.
For sure. Yeah, so if anybody has any questions, just use the Q&A and the chat button. I like to say that I actually did take this myself, and it is dead on, because I've taken personality tests before in the past where it didn't really tell me anything, and I probably wouldn't have gotten the job that I actually did the personality test for after I was actually hired. So I did do this with Tatiana, and it was dead on of exactly of who I am and how I work, which is probably why Tatiana and I work so great together, is because she knows me before we actually even met. So
that's my superpower, remember?
That was her superpower. So it's fantastic. So if you're so basically everybody, if there's any additional questions, let us know. Otherwise, we will wrap this up and we will move on. But this is fantastic because she has literally decades of experience doing this. And if you're sick of turnover, if you're sick of seeing your really good people leave, or you hire someone, they're great in the interview, and it becomes a Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde type thing, this is the way to go. It's going to save you a lot of time, money, and effort, and just continuously have quality come through your doors. So I'll leave it up a little bit longer for questions. Other than that, we will follow up with you afterwards, and we can connect more then. So if anyone has anything else, please use this time right now to tap in, or we will wrap up.